Okay.
Hey, what up? It's Brad with Home Love Construction. Welcome to another episode of the Critical Path Podcast. I have as my guest today, Mr. Tony Twomey. So Tony is the president of American Power and Gas. And he runs a huge, how many people do you have over there now?
400.
Dude, I literally thought it was 200. I'm like, oh my goodness. So he runs a 400 person organization. He's a really badass executive. He's got a great accent. He's got a great story. So I'm really excited to sit down and talk to you, man. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome, Brad, mate. Firstly, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And on the accent, I have been working on this for 50 years, so I'm glad I got it. I got it right.
Okay. Hold on. You're 50 years old.
I am, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always like, I'm meeting so many people where I'm like, damn, I hope I'm like that person when I'm 50.
Yeah.
Like you're so not. Anyways.
I say it's the new 30. 50 is the new 30.
It kind of is becoming that way.
Yeah.
See, I'm 31. So I'm like, damn. Okay, good. That's great.
Yeah.
So anyways, I want you to introduce yourself. Like tell a little bit of your backstory and how you wound up where you are now.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great question. You know, I obviously with the accent, I come from Australia. I was born into a family of one of 9 kids. In a farming family. And, you know, we had this rule. Up until when you started school, work was optional.
Yeah.
But when you started school, work became mandatory.
Oh.
Yeah. And
on the farm?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, Dad would walk through the house at 5:45 in the morning and knock and say, get up. If he had to come back, dude, it wasn't pleasant. So, you know, we had 10 minutes to get out of bed. We'd have to wake up. We'd have to wet our hair, brush our hair because we couldn't go to the farm with bed hair, right? Just not allowed.
Wow.
So we grew up in this environment where you just produced.
Yeah.
You know, from a young age, it was just a farming community, farming family. Everyone's got to bring something to the table and everyone's got to put their shoulder to the wheel.
Yeah.
And that instilled a hell of a work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, you know, life just eventuated. But putting in at that early stage discipline, responsibility, and contribution to the family group, I've got to say, as a kid, there was times when I thought, this is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But looking back, I got to tell you, it's probably one of the most valuable things that they could have done.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I got out from there and I just went off and I've had an amazing career doing whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk about that. So you've told me a little bit of your career path and it's the most, I would say unexpected career path I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through in a new unit of time, your career path?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, the first,
maybe path isn't even like intercontinental, like jet trail of a career. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. When I actually sit back and look at it or have a conversation with someone about it, it seems so wild. But at 13 years of age, I was, you know, a tiny little kid and I loved horse racing. I mean, I was fanatical about horse racing.
Yeah.
And in the rural area.
Betting or watching or like actually
riding.
Horse. Riding. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And my sport as a kid that I was very talented at was equestrian.
Wow.
So there was this breaking in and pre-training of racehorses stables about 1.5 miles from our farm. So I would get up there early in the mornings and ride down to that farm, ride my horse to the stables.
Oh, wow.
And I fell in love with horse racing.
Yeah.
So long story short, as a kid, I spent 18 months as an amateur jockey.
Wow.
I mean, you look at me now, I'm 6 foot, I'm 200 pounds. And you go, there's no way, dude.
Yeah.
But I knew I was going to be too big.
Yeah.
But I've always had this attitude in life. If I want to do something, I just do it. I don't ask permission. And I sure as hell don't ask for forgiveness. I just go and do.
Yeah.
And so I got my amateur jockey's license.
Yeah.
And I rode for 18 months. Now, it was funny because the silks would come to here on my arms.
Yeah.
And there was always this joke that if there was a fight in the jockey's room, I'd win because no one would get near me.
Yeah.
I was always going to be too big.
Yeah.
But I was a kid and I could ride.
Yeah.
And I just got to experience it. And that attitude in life has taken me to many places.
Yeah.
So I got out of that when I got too big.
Yeah.
And
how like 15? like age of 15 or?
No, but I was 19 actually.
Oh, 19.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did a few things, like I just did random things.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I did 12 months of carpentry apprenticeship.
Yeah.
Because I actually wanted to be a builder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
me.
Correct. Yeah. Which is, sitting down with you is cool.
Actually, you know what's funny is I'm not really a builder. I'm a CEO.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I kind of do the same thing you do.
Yeah.
Just on a smaller scale. Yeah.
For now.
For now. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Yeah. I know about your trajectory.
Yeah.
And mate, I can't wait to see what you and Ashley do over the next 3 to 5 years.
Thanks, man.
Cool.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I got out of horse racing and that was just an amazing lifestyle. Made me no money, right?
Really?
Yeah. It was just
no pay. Like
it was
you're
minimal.
amateur, so it's like
correct.
Yeah.
And you get up, I'm working in stables, I'm riding track work, up at the stables at 4 a.m. in the morning, riding 15 plus horses a morning. And then I'd break in young race horses for cash on the side.
Oh, wow.
Just a hustler, just out there living life,
Yeah.
And then got into construction. I did 12 months of carpentry, got into concreting. I spent 6 months on a concrete crew and, great for the muscles, not much good for me, got where I was going.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is hard work.
Yes.
And then I got into earthworks.
Yeah.
And by this stage, I don't know, I'm probably around about 20 years of age. And I got in this big civil construction job in a coal mine.
Mm-hmm.
Big equipment. We're talking big bulldozers like D11s, 75-ton excavators, like big equipment.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is more me.
Yeah.
Cabs are air conditioned. It's a different pace of work.
Yeah.
And I just loved the civil construction.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that project comes to an end. And at that point, I'm just a laborer. I'm just learning the game. I'm learning the how it all rolls.
Yeah.
And that job comes to an end.
Yeah.
And I'd met a girl in town.
Yeah.
And I wanted to stay in town.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like a mining town. So I just start going job to job to job, looking for an opportunity, job sites to job sites.
Yeah.
So I met this guy and he says to me, I'm looking for a guy who can do survey, like transfer heights, right? Yeah. And back in the day, it's a dumpy level, which most of your people being builders would understand what a dumpy level is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old school, it's what we used before lasers were a thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he goes to transfer all the heights. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I was doing on the last job. And he goes, really? And I'm like, yeah. So he goes, okay. So we had a bit more of a chat.
Yeah.
And then he says, no worries. I've got a few things to do. I'll give you a call if I've got an opportunity. Yeah. So I'm driving out the gate of that job and I ring the last superintendent that I just finished with.
Yeah.
And I said, you're probably going to get a phone call. And by the way, this is what I was doing for you. He laughs. He says, you better come back. I'll give you a week's worth of labor hire, put you on the labor hire books.
Yeah.
And you can work with the engineers and you learn how to use a dumpy.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, great. So I did that, got the job. And from there, it just set me off. I worked for that company for 3.5 years. By the age of 21, I was a foreman, youngest kid on the site.
Yeah.
And I'm running about, 20 odd guys, half a dozen machines, and it's civil. We're doing, drainage, bulk earthworks, water retention ponds, things like this. But I go back to when I was a kid on the farm.
Yeah.
That work ethic.
Yeah.
The discipline, the contribution to the group.
Yeah.
Just set me up was when I got to that point, I was always looking at how can I outproduce what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even from a viewpoint of I need to do this to get promoted. I was just like, we're at work and I'm going to produce.
Yeah.
So, from a very young age, from there, I never looked back from like, you could say my managerial experience or, going up the food chain in the career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And somewhere in the middle there, you also hosted a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please explain.
Okay. So that was a few years later.
Yeah.
So we get to about 25 years of age.
Yeah.
And, coming from a big family, I had experienced myself the devastation of drugs and alcohol abuse in my life. I started doing drugs at 14 and I was smart enough to, right before my 17th birthday, to realize drugs wasn't the lifestyle I signed up for.
Yeah.
And I got away from drugs. It was interesting, actually.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
it was an interesting realization because I had a near-death experience because I was hanging out with criminals.
Yeah.
I was a criminal. I was doing drugs. I was a criminal. All my mates were criminals.
Wow.
And my brother and I get badly beaten up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I wake up in hospital. I'm like 16, nearly 17.
Yeah.
And I'm black and blue. I've got stitches in my mouth and cuts on my arm. And I remember thinking, this is not the lifestyle I grew up. That this is not the lifestyle I signed up for.
Yep.
So I made a decision that I was going to change.
Mm.
And this is actually a pertinent point because I got onto my oldest brother, because I'm number 5, my oldest brother, and I said, I need to get out. Have you got any connections that can get me a job? Out. I need a different state.
Yeah.
I've got to go.
Yeah.
And he hooked me up.
Wow.
And that's how I got into the racing stables that I got my apprentice, jockey's license at, right? And he goes, I got this job. It's at a racing stable.
Yeah.
And they're looking for someone. I go, perfect. So I had dinner with the family, and
let me tell you something that you may or not know.
Yeah.
Do you know Grant Cardone's story about he was a drug addict until I think 25 years of age, I think. Did you know that?
I did, yeah.
You know how what the turning point for him was?
He got beaten up too.
He got beaten, like really bad.
Yeah.
And then went to the literally it was something like he went to his mom's house or something like that. She didn't recognize him. And literally he checked into rehab the next day and then never used drugs again after that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's interesting that was kind of a similar experience, so to speak.
Yep.
You feel like you were lucky that you got beaten to a pulp? Yeah.
I'd never thought of it until you asked that question. But when you asked the question,
yeah,
I do, because
kind of a weird thing to feel lucky about something, bad.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, if that never happened, I think a lot of people just are going through and they don't get something, they don't bounce, they don't hit bottom and get the opportunity to bounce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I thought I was having fun.
Yeah.
I'm 16 years of age. My brother and I have our own apartment. I left home very young. And I'm thinking I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I think I'm living a cool life at 16.
Mm-hmm.
Getting stoned when I want and having mates over doing what we want. And I thought it was living a cool life.
Yeah.
So it was that made me change.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, probably am lucky.
Yeah.
I was going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the next step I did was critical because I didn't want anyone from that life, the criminal life, to stay connected to them. I didn't want them to know where I was or what I was doing. I never wanted to be sucked back into it.
Yeah.
So I swore my family to secrecy on where I was going. And I said, you can't tell any of my mates if they ask where I go.
You made your family swear to you that they wouldn't tell any of your criminal friends at the time, or the drug dealing friends or whatever.
Yeah, which was all my friends.
Yeah.
Because, you birds of a feather flock together type of thing.
Yeah.
And I disconnected from everyone.
What?
In my
Why?
life.
How did you know that was the thing to do? How did you know to do that?
That's a good question. At 16 years of age, I wasn't smart enough to not do dumb shit. So,
Yeah.
But there was something there. I had made the decision that I was moving away from that life.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything that was in my life that I wanted.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was it was literally that experience.
Yeah.
Because the day before, I thought I was a cool cat. I thought I was hanging with the cool cats.
Yeah.
We weren't cool. We were all dumb little bastards.
Yeah.
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 That's the truth.
Wow.
But it took that to wake me up. So I just literally, within a week, the opportunity, my bro found the opportunity. We loaded up his little pickup truck and he took me down there. It was about 11, 12-hour drive out to this property and, middle of nowhere in Australia.
Yeah.
And it was an 80-acre racehorse property. I lived on the property and it was just epic. It got me out of an environment that was toxic and it put me into an environment of people that were professional, had ambitions. The lady I worked for, the racehorse trainer, she owned the property.
Yeah.
It was her license we operated under. And I was just dealing with people that wanted to improve life, not destroy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at that stage, I literally had my 17th birthday there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Okay, so TV show. I got you totally off track there. So TV show.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all relevant.
Yeah.
So the TV show. So that's at 17. I get away from the drugs. At 25 years of age,
Yeah.
I start getting a bit more educated about drugs. At 17, I knew it wasn't for me. At 17, I knew it was destructive. But at 25 years of age, I get more of an education on exactly what drugs do to an individual, both physically, spiritually, mentally.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's like, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I'm driving. Now I'm a sales rep selling construction equipment,
Nice.
right? At 25.
That's a classic transition. The guy doing the work transitions into selling the equipment. Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in my pickup truck, pounding the pavement, hitting the road. And they called it the rumor mill. It was this FM radio station. And every day they'd have 3 people call in with a rumor. And it was like a funny little segment,
Yeah.
the rumor mill.
Yeah.
And if any of the rumors turned out to be true, you got cash. And the radio station would give you cash.
Oh, wow.
So I'm listening to this rumor mill. And when I was a little kid, there was this TV show called Young Talent Time. And it was Saturday night, went for about an hour and a half. And kids from the ages of like 7 through to 15 would sing and dance Saturday night. And it was called Young Talent Time.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been on air for many years. And the rumor was Young Talent Time's coming back on air and they're looking for a fresh-faced host to host the TV show.
Yeah.
And I go, wow. Because the interesting thing was a lot of the talent that I grew up as a kid watching all end up very heavily into drugs by the ages of like mid to late teens or early 20s.
Yeah.
Like devastation.
Yeah.
Like talented kids that should have been world phenomena wiped out on drugs.
Wow.
So I'm listening to this rumor mill and I was like, I am going to host that show. Because
shut the fuck up.
No, true. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I said, if I could be the terminal, if I could be the conduit for those kids,
the lead guy,
I could keep them off drugs. I would make sure they never touched a drug, let alone went down that
basically
rabbit hole.
clean the environment. Like, wow.
Yeah. And that was my purpose.
Wow.
I never was interested in TV. Like it never was like, I want to be a TV personality.
Wow.
I'm like a construction guy. I love racehorses, and then here I am. And I've got this picture of all these talented kids wasting their life on drugs.
Right.
And I went, if I was their connection, if I was their terminal, they'd never do drugs.
Yeah.
And I just decided I'm going to be a TV host.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I went home. My girlfriend at the time started doing all this work. She got the executive producer that was going to do the show.
Yeah.
And long story short, I didn't get the gig.
Wow.
But I'd already made the decision that TV was the conduit to kids.
Yeah.
And I wanted to keep kids off drugs.
Yeah.
Because I'd experienced the freaking devastation that freaking cone at 14 years of age that I pulled to be a part of the cool cats was a slippery slope that put me on, nearly a 4-year destruction run. And if I didn't have that wake-up call, who knows where I'd be.
Yeah.
And it all started because I wanted to fit in with the group that was doing drugs because I thought they were the cool cats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And kids need to know that's bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
You can say no.
Totally.
And there's power in saying no.
Yeah.
And the dickhead who's trying to offer you the drugs is just an asshole that's lying to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, we're off on a tangent. I didn't think we'd be
it's great. This is great.
But that's what got me into TV.
Wow.
So by that stage, I had made a decision I was going to get onto TV.
Yeah.
And so I just had that decision made.
Yeah.
And it's probably about 3, maybe 4 years later, random story. I'm now in a different sales job.
Yeah.
And when we had great weeks, we'd go and have a long lunch and celebrate.
Yeah, yeah.
Friday afternoon.
Sure.
Long lunch.
Yeah.
So we're having this long lunch and in this restaurant/bar.
Long lunch.
A long lunch, yeah. A liquid lunch, a wet lunch. So this guy comes in and starts talking to my boss.
Yeah.
And he's got a TV show.
Ah.
And I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have a bit of a chat. I pull out a business card and give him the business card when we finish our chat.
Yeah.
And I go, if you're ever looking for a co-host, hit me up.
Yeah.
As a joke, right?
Yeah.
Not really a joke, but I'm like making humor of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out where he worked. 2 weeks later, I followed him up. We start chatting. He goes, you should come to the studio.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I go to the studio. I'm all dressed up. I'm ready to get, I'm getting in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And he goes, great, thanks for coming. Mate, they had me climbing up into roofs, changing lights, rolling cables.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm all dressed up and I'm going, okay. The next week I went to the studio. I turned up in work clothes and I did that for a few months.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to get on TV.
Yeah.
And then I was watching, looking for opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, it's a low budget. It's on a community network. These guys need money. So I come up with a concept to raise some sponsorship money.
Yeah.
I go and close a deal. I have a meeting with the host, who was my connection.
Yeah.
And the producer of the show.
Yeah.
And I go, I've got a check for some money. And they're like, wow, this is incredible, right? I'm a salesman, so I can close a deal.
Yeah.
And I go, they've got this concept. This is what they want to do.
Yeah.
And they want me to host it.
Yeah.
The little segment. And they're like, yeah, no worries.
They're like, whatever you want.
Yeah, have at it.
Okay, how much was the check for?
It was like $2,000 or $2,500. It's nothing.
Oh, that's yeah. But I'm sure to them, they're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's someone that they're not asking for money.
Yeah.
Showing my age a bit, but we're going back, nearly 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it still wasn't a lot of money.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it was for 1 minute a week. This little segment was 1 minute a week for one season, which is like 13 weeks from memory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so they go like, yeah, no worries. So we do that. And they go, what are you going to call it? And I go, we're going to call it a street talk or something, some bullshit thing I came up with, right? Yeah. But we just started, right? And got me in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And then one day, the host, we had the studio booked.
Mm-hmm.
The host doesn't show up. So we're in the studio. We got about 50 guests in the studio. And the producer says, you're hosting the show. And I'm like, right on, right?
Yeah.
But I sit in the studio and there's freaking lights everywhere. And I'm like a deer in headlights. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But we finished the first show.
Yeah.
A half-hour show. You do it in little segments. And at the end of it, the producer comes down and says to me, you've got the gig.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, you've got the gig. And I go, no, I can't take it because the guy who introduced me was the host.
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes, think about it. He rings me up mid that week and goes, do you want the gig? And I'm like, no. I don't want to cut his grass.
Yeah.
He says,
I don't want to cut his grass.
Cut his grass.
What a great expression.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So I don't want to cut his grass. He goes, no, either you take it or I'm getting someone else because he stood me up. If I didn't have you, I wouldn't have a show to go to air in 2 weeks because it was about a 2-week delay.
Yeah.
So either you take it or I will find someone else. I go, now that you put it that way.
So now that I know I'm not cutting his grass.
Correct. Yeah, the grass is singed, man. It's burnt. So anyway, so that's how that came about. But anyway, I did that for about 2.5 years. I still worked a job at the same time.
Yeah.
But we filmed, a couple of nights. Most weekends we're out filming content and doing stuff.
Yeah.
It was just epic experience.
Yeah.
And I got to communicate to kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was great.
What a great decision. And what a great follow-up to make the decision reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was doing a really small webinar to a group of people yesterday talking about like the setting of a target is one thing, but then, the doingness to actually messily and one step at a time make it become real is something completely different. And people don't, I actually like that you just told that story really from beginning to end with all the little details because it should be evidence to people that production is messy. Like getting something you want, it's not clean. It's not like, and then it appeared from the heavens and the angels sang, oh, it's like, and then I got there and I rolled the cable and I did it in my dress suit and I had to work. And it's like, but then I did this and then all of a sudden, boom, there you are with the thing you actually had wanted.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not necessarily, I mean, it can be a straight path, but it's not clean on the way there. You know what I mean?
100%.
So now you're running a pretty major energy company.
Yep.
You're the guy there that runs it day to day.
Yep.
Right. So you're the president of American Power and Gas.
Yep.
So how would you describe your role there? And how would you describe kind of like, just for anybody who doesn't know, what does the company do?
Yeah.
And then what do you do as in your role in the company?
Yeah. Okay. So the company, we're an energy company.
Yeah.
We sell gas and electricity in deregulated states,
Yeah.
which, is like New York, Connecticut, Ohio, Maryland, those areas where a consumer gets to choose who they buy their gas and electric from.
Right.
Which in Florida.
Not like Florida.
Not like Florida.
Yeah.
So we're one of those suppliers that sell.
Wow.
So that's what we do. We technically we're more of a sales company than an energy company is the way I look at it. Because, if you're not selling, you don't have a product to deliver.
Right.
So the beauty of my background is I know that life is a sales cycle.
That's right. All of life.
All of life.
That's right.
You sell a mum on why you want the candy or why you're not going to school today.
Yeah.
That's a sales cycle.
Yeah. Selling the girl.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep. So, life is a sales cycle. So I look at anything I do in selling, it's just life.
Yeah.
If I want something in life, you've got to close the deal to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right.
So anyway, so there's that. That's what we do.
Yeah.
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 And so what do you do inside the organization? You're the president, you run the show.
Yeah.
What is that? And I want to get like some reality for people who, most people who are going to see this don't have 400 staff. They might only have 4 staff.
Yep.
So what for somebody who's thinking with running like hundreds of people, what do you put your attention on like day to day? Like what do you focus on?
Yeah. Good. So, firstly, my job covers all the day-to-day from hiring the team through to everything that's customer facing.
Mm-hmm.
I work closely with our CEO, who's one of the owners.
Yeah.
And I work closely with him, and he looks after all of the energy, portfolio management and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is a very technical and very demanding area of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I look after pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
So I walk, from front door to back door, everything else is pretty much mine.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. What do I focus on? And, I've run smaller groups and I've run bigger groups.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I just deal with the individual in front of me. Yeah. And I can't say that changed when I was running 12 guys to running 100 guys. Well, when I say guys, girls, people.
Yeah.
100 people through to now like 400 people.
Yeah.
I just deal with the individual in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our organizational structure has, myself, and then there's, a handful of VPs underneath me.
Yeah. How many people report to you in your company?
Now, I probably got a couple too many. Because you try and look at that ratio of getting like a 5-to-1 type of ratio.
Yeah.
But I probably got direct reports. I probably up around 8 to 10 direct reports.
Yeah.
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 5 of those are VPs and, very key terminals. And we got some really badass executives on post.
Yeah. I know some of them. You guys have some great people.
Some really cool people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that structure. And then I got a few other bits and pieces that report to me and things we're working and building out and piloting here or trying there.
Yeah.
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 So, from the front door of hiring the staff, we go through, that's the first step. And then they go into training, especially as from the sales force.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go in, it's broken into divisions.
Mm-hmm.
And the divisions of our organization board technically flows on what our product is.
Yeah.
How it flows through.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we got to do is hire someone. So division 1 is hiring.
Mm-hmm.
Division 2, we got to train because division 3 is selling, but they can't sell to their train. So division 2 is training.
That's right. Yeah.
And then it goes through the organization.
Yeah.
And then, it goes all the way up until we delivered the product to the customer. We handle any customer service inquiries or what occurs there. And then we wash, rinse, and repeat.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And in relation to the team, I can't mean it more sincerely. It doesn't matter whether you're running 10 guys, 10 people, or 100 people.
Yeah.
You're dealing with individuals.
Yep.
And let's face it, most individuals want to succeed.
Yeah.
Most individuals want to improve.
Mm-hmm.
And most individuals want to increase their abilities, their production, their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And if you find those people and work with their willingness, running a team is so much fun.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
So it's funny. We actually have two businesses over here. We have Home Love Construction.
Yep.
And then we have another business that we just started last year, which is called Home Love Plumbing. And I had somebody else kind of running Home Love Plumbing as an additional division, basically on the Home Love Construction organizing board.
Yep.
And in January, we moved it off into its own. It's in its own office. It's got its own organizing board, and I'm holding the CEO hat for both companies.
Yeah. But
I really have just one person who directly reports to me in plumbing. And what I've noticed is exactly what you just said. Is I've just been shocked, like jaw hitting the floor constantly in how well they're doing with just me letting them do it, but then also backing them up wherever they need the back. Like whatever's stopping them, I just move it out of the way, and then they just keep bulldozing forward. And it is really true what you said about people want to succeed. Yeah. Like the general rule when you hire somebody is not that they're not going to want to succeed. The general rule is that they do. Yep. Now, so something that I really admire about the organization that you run is your guys' hiring lines are very well greased. You guys hire a ton of people and you sift a lot, right? Like you have a very stringent training process from what I understand. Yep. We've actually copied that. I'll show you afterwards. We have a training area that's separate from the rest of our organization where literally we put people through training for two reasons. And I wonder if this is similar to you. Yeah. So we train people for two reasons. One, because we want them to know how to do the job. Obvious, right? Yeah. But the second reason is because I want to know who will stick around through the end of training and see it through to a done. Yep. And those people who are willing to, boom, done, check off everything on the list. Yep. Those people are the people who, like, since we put that in, our turnover past the training has gone down to we have less than 10% turnover. Wow. Because once we put the training in, people who will see it through, they tend to see things through in their life. They tend to be successful. Yep. So they succeed here. Yep. Have you found similar things in your organization? Yeah. That's a really good point you make, because we're going through an evolution probably the last 3 or 4 months. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You're either getting the thing to go up or it's going down. That's right. If you get this mindset, we're good, we're just going to maintain, guess what? You're going down, dude. Exactly. You're going down. So we're always tweaking. How do we do more? How do we, and on the hiring line, we started putting in at the front door more of a communication that really set the expectation because it's not an easy job. Right. So we started saying, look. Yeah, what you do, can I say what you hire the most for? Because I'm pretty, you basically hire for people to pound the phones and destroy the phone for 8 hours a day and make hundreds of cold calls a day. Yeah. To lists. Yeah. Which is a brutal job. But you have people in there making 6 figures cold calling. Yeah. Like people literally who have no experience in sales come in, learn to cold call, and then will make over $100,000 a year. Just boom. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And you teach them how to do the whole thing. Correct. It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And what an opportunity. Incredible. Yeah. And then the guys that come in and really apply themselves. Yeah. We've got guys that have been on that sales floor for 12, 13 years. Yeah. And you see other guys that, they say, oh, this isn't for me, but the skills they learn doing that to go off and then open up a career that was never achievable to them prior to the training and the experience we put them through. Yeah. Yeah. So what's been the impact of that kind of the R factor, the reality factor up front of, hey, this is what you should expect here? Massive. Yeah. Yeah. Because, we really started putting in probably about 4 months ago, more of a direct communication interview process where we say, look, this is the job. This is what you can expect. And a percentage will go like this and a percentage will go like that. And if you persist and this is how you get educated, you apply this, we'll lay it all out for you. And if you're up for that, let's go. Yeah. So what we found is the people that were coming in, our sticking ratio through training, they're now coming in expecting hard work. Yeah. Because it's hard work. Like it would be showing up for your training. Right. You're not going to get in a construction game or some might and go, oh, this is going to be like a walk in the park. Yeah. No, dude. Yeah. Put on a nail bag
get blisters, loose skin on the knuckles, crawl up in attics. We're doing a renovation, etc. Right?
You know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
We actually, the people we hire don't do any of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I probably should tell you this. So we subcontract everything. So our game is the management of the construction on somebody's house, either building a house or modifying a house. So we basically take the problem away from the homeowner and say, hey, give that to me.
Yep.
I'll handle everything.
Yep.
And then basically we're constantly recruiting, like you're recruiting for people.
Yep.
We're constantly recruiting for people in our division 1, but our division 4 they have a recruiting arm for subcontractors. So we're bringing in 10 to 20 new subcontractors a week to vet.
Yep.
And hey, can you actually do what you say? Do show me examples, et cetera.
Yep.
Properly licensed, blah, 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 all that shit.
Yep.
But that's who we actually get to do our work. So the hard work is, hey, can you actually confront a rigid schedule? Can you confront a customer and actually close the deal? Can you handle a subcontractor who's saying, hey, I know I signed to the payment terms, but you got to pay me today or I'm walking off the job.
Right.
That's the hard work is you're talking about handling the person in front of you.
Yeah.
That's basically our whole deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that handling that one individual is technically handling the whole crew.
Yeah.
So if you handle that conversation well or you screw it up,
That's right.
is the job continues or the job stops?
That's right.
Got
Yeah.
it.
And is the client calling irate or are they like, you guys are so awesome?
Yeah.
Like literally that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the job stops and it's like, 2 days, no people, what's going on?
Yep.
Versus there's been somebody here every week. There were 3 people here on Tuesday,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what training lineup do you put those? Because really you've got a salesman, and even if they're not a salesman, they've got to have salesman skills because they're managing contractors and or clients.
Yeah. So we have 2 primary positions that we hire for. One is the salesman. We call them estimators.
Yeah.
So we bring in anywhere from 10 to 20, realistically 10 to 15 of those a month. We start a class every month.
Yeah.
And that's a 4-week lineup where they basically learn how we sell, like what is our sales process.
Yeah.
And then they actually do it. And by the 4th week, they have to have closed the deal or, that's part of they got to make it.
Yep.
And we have very inexpensive things that they can sell. They could sell a $3,000 set of plans to somebody who wants to do a renovation. Very easy. We have tons of leads. We get like 1,000 leads a week here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. So the other thing that we hire for, so that's the sales side. The other thing that we hire for is project managers.
Yep.
And we do about the same volume, probably about 10 a month. We bring into training.
Yep.
And then they have to go through a series of things. It's I'll probably butcher the weeks here, but I think week 1 is like how Home Love Construction operates because it's a bit different from other construction companies. So we got to kind of strip out what they're used to and then put in, hey, here's how it's organized here.
Yeah.
The second week is, do they actually know the basics of construction? And if they don't, making sure that we get in everything they need to know. And then the third week is basically kind of like, it's very admin focused, but there's a lot of admin that goes into what we do and tracking the details of a job. So that when the client says, hey, I need that outlet on that wall high for a TV, we wind up with the outlet high for the TV on the wall. Like little things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you take the blueprints and actually make sure it goes into a scope of work correctly? And then the 4th week is they take a job and they got to get a milestone. Like
get a deal, close something.
No, for the project managers, is they take a job. They have to actually run it from start to the first milestone, which is usually one of like the demo's done and one of the trades has done their rough end, like electrical or plumbing or mechanical.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a 4-week runway for both areas you're hiring for mainly.
That's right. Yeah. And then for executives, really we've kind of, actually I'd be interested to know how you guys handle this, but we've kind of moved away from recruiting executives above like a director level.
Yeah.
Like VPs and up, we're pretty much only promoting from within at this point, just because I don't know, man. You bring somebody else from outside and they don't know the lines. You give them like a lot of power. I've seen most people fuck it up. I've only had one guy come in and do really well, and he now runs the whole sales side of our company, sales and our intro service.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. How do you guys handle that? I'm so curious.
Pretty similar.
Yeah.
Promoting from within, I think, is the coolest thing.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, that's something
Eileen was a promotion from within.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much value in it. Like there is so much value because firstly, you're rewarding good works, well done, and you're rewarding that. That's gold.
Yeah.
You've got someone who has spent time at the grassroots or on the coal face of your business.
That's right.
That
you say the coal face?
On the coal face. Yeah. All these little Aussie sayings, right?
So great.
On the coal face. You know, you're in there.
Don't mow his grass.
Get correct. Cut the grass.
Oh, don't cut his grass.
We would say that as young guys, like, you know, if you had your eye on a girl and one of your mates were trying to do some tuning, you're like, dude, you can't cut the grass.
Wait, what did you do? Some tuning?
Tuning. Like, tuning.
T-U-N-E or T-O-O-N?
No, T-U, tuning. You know, coming in, tuning up. And it's like, And you go, dude, you can't cut the boy's grass, you know? So anyway, a few little Aussie isms.
So good.
You know when I first came here?
Yeah.
I came here and I thought Americans spoke English, right?
Yeah.
And then I get here in the first few months, I'm like, I don't know who's not speaking English, but we are speaking different languages. Well, that's like nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story on that.
Yes, please.
Right. So I come over here and the first deal I had here with the two boys that own American Power and Gas was we were setting up a solar power company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a separate company. And that was my opportunity to get here.
Wow.
And so anyway, I'm here for a couple of months and
I got to know, what did that just into nothing? Or
no, we made a decision.
Yeah.
We were selling a product called PPA, which stands for Power Purchase Agreement. They've gone very widespread. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were big. We're going back about 10 years ago up in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And it has an amazing back end on it. We call renewable credits.
Yeah.
So the whole game was funded by private equity money. Like we're talking billions of dollars went into this game, right?
Yeah.
But as the areas got their carbon footprint to the level that the government or whoever was really running the program did, the renewable credits got wound back, which was a lot of money for the private equity guys on the back end, you know, for a 20-year contract, which is what the PPA was.
Yeah.
And as that just went down, like we're talking within a couple of years, went from like $800, $850 down to somewhere between 50 and 100 per credit.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking a lot of money out of the back end.
So this wasn't a solar company to sell homeowners solar.
It was.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, but we were selling these PP power purchase agreements for big major companies.
Oh, okay.
We were going in to get our skills down on how to sell solar.
Yeah.
And then we were going to start then investing and doing our own systems.
Got it.
Yeah. So we had a big plan.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so as that back end got wound down, private equity just pulled, and we're talking in hundreds of millions at a time, started pulling the money back.
Yeah.
And that part of the industry really suffered.
Oh, I got it.
Like your Vivint Solar, pretty much all but went.
They're just gone, right?
Well, they got bought out. Well, when they say they got bought out, this Vivint Security bailed them out. They were bankrupt.
Oh, did they?
Vivint Security bailed them out. Same structure, you know.
Yeah.
They just bought them, took the bankruptcy.
Yeah.
You know, got it back to health, sold it on.
Yeah.
Solar City, you know, Elon Musk's company.
Yeah.
Same thing. That's why Tesla bought out Solar City. It was to bail them out of bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It was just like when the private equity money went,
Yeah.
That element of the industry just went whoosh.
Wow.
So, you know, we looked at that and said, you know, next game.
Yeah. Not viable.
It was, we looked at from where we were, you know, we could have revamped it.
Yeah.
But with what we had going on, the other opportunities we had in other markets.
Yeah.
It was like, where we going to invest our attention and what's going to be the ROI on that.
Yeah.
And at that point, it just made a decision. Let's just put that on ice.
Yeah, it makes sense. Good.
Yeah.
I think you were telling me a funny story before I interrupted.
Yeah. So I'm in this meeting with the then CEO who me getting promoted has sort of pushed him up into chairman of the board at like board level.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm in this meeting. I'm about 2 months into America. And he's a very charismatic individual, very passionate.
Yeah.
So we're in one of these meetings and he's like, dude, what happened? And I'm like, the guy just spat the fucking dummy. Right?
What?
Yeah, that's what he said. Because, I'm talking Australian. And he slams the table. He goes, what the fuck is spat the dummy? So I'm like, how am I going to explain this to an American? So I sit there for about 10 seconds and I'm trying to think what you call a dummy, right? And you call it a pacifier.
Oh.
In Australia, we call it a dummy. Because really, it's a dummy. It's a dummy tit.
Breast. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a dummy.
Yeah.
And that's what we call it. We don't call it a pacifier. So, and I'm saying to him,
oh my God.
I'm like, how am I going to explain this to this guy? So I'm like, I think you call it a pacifier. Yeah, pacifier. Okay, he just spat the pacifier. So when someone has a meltdown and they get all fucking misemotional, in Australia, we would say, you're spitting the dummy, right? Because, baby spits out the dummy. And it's all just bullshit.
Yeah.
Put the pacifier back in, So anyway, I took this meeting that was, we were handling production and, and then at that point he just starts laughing his ass off. And that was when I realized we really do speak a different language.
That's right.
Yeah. And then I had to really start thinking, what does Americans call different things so I, can keep that in? Because we have literally Aussies, we've got our own lingo.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what you said you got promoted into the role that you're at now. One thing that, is really valuable because you're in a unique position where you're running a big company, but you're not part of the ownership of that company.
Correct.
But you still contribute there massively and you fucking kill it there.
Yeah.
I mean, to be blunt.
Yeah.
One thing that's really valuable to people at the top of a company is people who think with up and out. Yeah. Meaning you, and I'm curious to know if this is something you were thinking about or you just kind of like made it happen. Did you think with, hey, I'm going to make it so that they can promote me and I'm just going to handle it so that they don't even have to think about it anymore? Like the running of the day. Is that something you were like thinking about or like trying to actively achieve? And how did you show the ownership that's something that you could do?
Yeah. Again, really good question.
I'm just going to clip what you say, and I'm just going to give this to like all my executives.
Yeah, guys, this is how.
Yes.
So, okay, there's a few tiers of questions in that. So, firstly, there was a time when I looked at the organization, and I really looked at it, and I said to one other terminal, we could really handle this.
Yeah.
Because there was a
What area were you running at that time?
At that time, when we shut down solar, I actually went on to projects.
Oh, cool.
Like I just went on to projects both in American Power and Gas and outside American Power and Gas because the two guys are very hardworking and very successful guys.
Yeah.
Like they could both be retired and sitting on the beaches of the world and they are both working 60 plus hour weeks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they just produce.
Yeah.
So there was a time when, they had an exec structure that they were trying to get out of the business and leave the exec structure to sort of run the day-to-day.
Yeah.
And there were some things going on that weren't ideal. And I remember saying to somebody, you and I could actually handle this because I was an employee. Technically, my responsibility wasn't to what was going on. But if that continued, not only did it put my survival in jeopardy, at that stage we had about 200 or 250.
When you say survival, you're saying like good survival, not actually your life.
No.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. No,
I got what you're saying. I just want to make sure people understand.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to come up and shoot you, but it's like, I get what you're saying. Like it could actually threaten the business.
It absolutely.
Yeah.
It could definitely threaten the business, which at that stage there was about 200 or maybe 250 staff.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
And I'm looking at it and
it's a lot of families.
It's a lot of families, mate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that rely on every company that operates. And as a business owner, you being one of them, when you put a business there, you're taking on helping a lot of people to survive better.
Right.
So I'm watching this go on. And I remember that decision I made when I went, I could actually do something about it. I could handle this. And at that point, I didn't set about to do it, but any outpoint I saw, I would always report to the owners because the owners were still sort of in the business at both of them at that time.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. So the CEO at the time, who's gone up to board level, he puts me on a project and he goes, I need you to go into this area it's another VP running the area.
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to go in there and just tell me what's going on.
Mm.
Like, we're not getting the products out of there we need to. So I'm going in, I'm not issuing orders, I'm not running it. I'm going in like inspections and reports.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in there and I just start looking. And anyway, I start getting the data and I'm learning the area because I'm not familiar with the area. I haven't been in that part.
Yeah.
And anyway, one of the particular senior executives comes to me and she goes, I've got this staff member. We've just put her on her third and final warning.
Yeah.
We're putting her in here to get her out of the area she's in. You've got her for about 2 weeks. And, if nothing changes, we're going to let her go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, great. And all I'd heard was negative
Mm-hmm.
about this individual.
Yeah.
This individual comes in and day one, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I do not see what I've been told.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
And there's no like social pretending or putting on.
Yeah.
She was being real.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the skills and I'm like, this chick is cool.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow. That's day one.
Yeah.
Day two, same thing. Just puck. And at that stage, we've got 6 supervisors. She's now become the 7th in the area.
Yeah.
But this is something that 2 senior executives wanted out of the business. So I could have just let that happen because it wasn't really my area, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But this has always been my viewpoint.
Yeah.
By the end of the second day, I'm like, I need to staticize this girl's production.
Mm.
So I start, and the system's new to me. I've only been in the area a couple of weeks. So I stay back late that day and I'm working how to dig into the system and get stats.
Mm-hmm.
Talk time, how many people contacted, what occurred,
Yeah.
how many deals closed,
Mhm.
what's the effectiveness.
Mhm.
And I come up with my own little way of reporting it.
Mhm.
And by the end of the first week with that girl, I've got all these stats worked out that I'm tracking.
Yeah.
And on a bad day, out of the 7 supervisors, she was doing 30% of the production.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on a good day, she's over 50% of the production.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I gather all this data and I go to the CEO
yeah.
and I say, we've got an individual
Yeah.
that is potentially going to be a massive loss to the company.
Yeah.
So I give him all the data. Well, that person went up the org board because she got onto the CEO's lines.
Yeah.
And it's that viewpoint that's ended me up as the president.
Yeah.
Not because I saw that I wanted to be the president. I never set out to be the president.
Yeah.
We had a badass president.
Yeah.
And we had a badass CEO.
Yeah.
Now the badass president has now become the badass CEO.
Yeah.
And the badass CEO has now become the badass board
Yeah.
of directors.
Yeah.
But it's just that viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I rely on that group to succeed
Mm-hmm.
for my quality of life.
Yeah.
Survival, quality of life,
Yep.
my income.
Yeah.
But so do hundreds of people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at hundreds of people and look at the average person that works there has, I don't know, on average, a partner and maybe 2 kids.
Right.
Dude, we're somewhere at that point between 1,000 to 1,200 people
That's right.
relying on that company doing well.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would not go past anything that I saw as a threat to that
Mm-hmm.
without handling it.
Wow.
I never walked past an out point. If I
Yeah.
saw an out point, I made it known.
Wow. Well
Regardless of my position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. And there's one other point because I've
Yeah.
worked on other projects, but the projects I worked on were funded by that group.
Mm-hmm.
So on Friday morning, we do this sales meeting where
Yeah.
we acknowledge people.
Yeah.
I would go out and sit in that sales meeting to acknowledge the people that produced that week.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't a part of that operating group.
Yeah.
Because they were the ones who funded the projects I was working on.
Right.
And I'm a big believer. You exchange with who you get support from.
Yeah.
You exchange with who you get power from.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, life just goes well for everyone involved.
Yes. Dude.
So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful. So probably last question for you here.
Yeah.
You mentioned your Friday morning meetings.
Yeah.
I've actually been to one. It was when you were out of town.
Yeah.
But they're awesome. They're great. So just to kind of like set the scene here, basically they've got they do it on their sales floor or their call center floor.
Yeah.
And you're in this room that room's probably what, 8,000 square feet, that room? Maybe.
Yeah. It's about that. Yeah.
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 Huge room.
Yeah.
And the front of it is all cleared out and they set up a table and they got all these prizes or awards on the table.
Yeah.
And they're just banging through, like they're using acronyms, words I don't understand. They're playing like Gucci Mane, like get the bag. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're just acknowledging people for probably 30 to 40 minutes straight.
Yep.
Everybody's losing their minds.
Yep.
How did you guys create? So I think a lot of companies aspire to that, of having a weekly get together where they just acknowledge all the amazing shit that happened this past week.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know, actually, you could give some advice here.
Yeah.
For small companies, I know, because I've thought this in the past, they're probably thinking, well, we didn't have anything that good that happened this past week. So what are we going to talk about?
Right.
They didn't maybe close thousands of people in a single week on becoming new customers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe two questions. One, how did you guys get that going? Or maybe it was always there. How you made it so amazing? And then two, for somebody who's got 3-4 staff, what would you recommend they do?
Yeah. So I can't take credit for setting up the meeting.
Totally.
That comes down to the two owners.
Yeah.
These guys, dude, they're operators, right?
Yeah.
So they came up with that format and that was in place when I came on.
Yeah.
I just took it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Right. But the way the awards break down is they are the sub-product to the production we need.
Yeah.
Because if you get your production team's attention on, okay, they're not getting the product, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You're not selling the $3,000 plans.
Yeah.
You're not selling the customer to do this. You're not handling the contractor to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Behind or underneath that product is sub-products.
Yeah.
So we have built out the awards for the sub-products because just because you're not the one closing the most deals doesn't mean you're not kicking ass on the sub-products. And there's multiple facets of wins for this.
Yeah.
Because you do get what you put attention on.
That's right.
So, if someone is not quite to the point that you're badass salesman or you're badass project manager or you're killer at this or whatever, he's going to be doing something right.
Right.
Otherwise, he's not going to be on the team.
Yeah.
And if you can, one, show them what sub-products to get in to win.
Right.
And then acknowledge they do it.
Yeah.
Because the badasses that do this aren't eligible for that. Because to get this, you're already doing that.
Yeah.
You don't come in and take, the 10 trophies because you sold the most.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We've got
so if you give somebody like the number one salesperson there, I know another thing that you guys staticize really heavily is like getting to decision makers.
Yeah.
Right. Like is that just getting somebody on the phone? Or I don't know how that's defined.
It's getting a decision maker and someone who can make a decision on the business.
Okay, great. Oh, for a business account.
Yeah.
So that person who got the overall number one sales award cannot get a sub-product award. They're taken out of the running for it.
Some of the sub-products are in there, but we've broken it out into the rookie award. So if you're a rookie and you're in this element or this time frame of being there, or you're in this production, you're competing against other guys with that, and you get your award. And if you're in this other campaign, you get an award for that campaign. And it is always on sales or / decision makers.
Yeah.
And we get that, but you don't in those other campaigns qualify for this.
Got it.
Because if we did, you'd have 2 people take everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then it gives a progression.
Yeah.
And then you're really acknowledging someone who comes in and they're new to the game, they're 3 months into the game, and they are doing amazing at getting these sub-products in.
Yeah.
We shout it out.
Yeah.
And then everyone can sit back and look at it and go, oh, that's what I need to do to win. And then they start going after those awards because it's a game.
Yep.
And let's face it, we all love a game.
We love a good game.
We love a game.
Yeah.
And it breeds, with the right people, it breeds a camaraderie and a competition that is very healthy.
Yeah. Totally.
Because then they're winning.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm personally a huge fan of intercompany competition.
Yeah.
one of the most successful things we've ever done is we played a game, and I don't know if I broke the points down correctly or whatever, but
Yeah.
I basically created a point system between our sales team and our production team. And they played a game where they would get points for doing different either sub products, or then the final products were obviously very valuable.
Yeah.
And they were like, they worked we did it for about a month, and they worked their asses off sales one.
Yeah.
But they worked their asses off that entire month, and the winner actually got their side of the office renovated.
Oh,
as a reward.
See, that's a cool game.
Yeah.
And I bet the morale in the whole group went up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
And really, what you get is everyone pushing on the same thing.
That's right.
Because for everyone to get their stats up, everyone's going in the same direction.
Yeah, that's right.
And that in itself is powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. Like we do individual awards for different campaigns that we sell in.
Yeah.
We do group awards. So if you're one of the groups who sell this campaign,
Yep.
you compete against that, and they all compete. And, that comes with a lunch.
Yeah.
For the whole group.
Yeah.
Monday you come in and the lunch is on us, and it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And then, the different awards, you get a car park. We have the Top Gun of the month, and that comes with a car park for the month.
Yeah.
And there's 3 car parks given
That's
up every
Australian
month.
for parking spot.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right. And we just make it fun.
Yeah.
But I do go back to, you get what you put your attention on.
Yeah.
And if you really put the game there and acknowledge the rightnesses of what it takes,
Yeah.
it goes a long way in building camaraderie, teamwork, and just lifts morale.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Well, good. We're going to call it there. We're going to end off. We could keep going for, I'm
Hours.
sure, forever. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
Tony, thank you for being here today.
Good on you, Brad. Thanks for having me, mate. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Cheers.